and welcome to Extraordinary People in an Ordinary World. I'm your host, Beth, and I'm an ordinary person amazed by the extraordinary people surrounding us. This podcast is about people who live among us who are doing extraordinary things. You can expect to meet people from all walks of life doing things that may inspire you, make you want to change, or just simply sit back and delight in their stories. I have met the most extraordinary people in my ordinary world, and I am so grateful to have the opportunity to share their stories. Now listen in and enjoy. Your inspiration may be right here in this episode. Have you ever felt called to do something that didn't quite make sense on paper, but felt undeniable in your heart? Something extraordinary, something that required courage, sacrifice, and trust. Not for someone you love, not for someone you even know, but for a complete stranger. Today's guest, listen to that voice in her head and in her heart. In a world where you often hear about doing what's best for yourself or following your will, we hear from someone who did something for somebody else. She chose immense generosity. She chose to give a part of herself, literally, to save the life of somebody else. She donated her kidney to a stranger simply because she felt like she was meant to do it. That isn't just a story about organ donation, but it's about listening to your intuition, even when it doesn't make sense, and it can bring the greatest good. So I'm honored to share her journey with you. And I welcome today Trish Shenik. Welcome to the show, and I'm so happy to have you here.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited. I usually like to tell people how I was introduced to you. So quickly, I'll just let everybody know my friend Terry Quinn, whom I work with, is a friend of yours, and she told me your story. I always ask people if they know anybody extraordinary to bring them to the show to me, and she brought you to me, and I'm really happy for that. So maybe we could start off because I guess let's take us back to the beginning, and you tell us when you first heard about the man that you eventually received your own kidney.
Yeah, I was actually on Facebook just looking around, and a friend of mine had commented on a page called A Kidney for Tom, and it just caught my attention, and I read the comment, and then I went to his page and read his story and realized that he was a bus driver in the district, and just immediately felt like in my head, like I can do that, even though it seemed ridiculous at the time. And I would say that's probably around 2017-18, winter into the spring of 2018. I remember then being outside with my family and saying to my dad, who was also a bus driver in my school district, "Hey, do you know Tom?" And he said, "He's a great guy." And I said, "Yeah, I came upon his page. You know, he's in need of a kidney." And my dad had said that he was really sick. And so I was like, I can do that. And just my family got a laugh out of it. And I was like, I really think I can do that. And they're like, okay, whatever, you know. And that was the beginning, really. And I just kept checking the page and checking on him because I couldn't stop thinking about him.
Yeah, because I mean, just when you think about it, like, oh, I could do that. Like, you're not talking about like, I'm going to go buy somebody dinner tonight. You know what I mean? You were going to give a part of yourself, which is a pretty big process. Did your dad know he had a kidney problem or just knew he was sick?
My dad knew, I think, at that point that he was looking for a kidney. He is a big Easton supporter. His kids went to Easton and he's on the football boosters. He does all of the snacks at the concession stand at our football games. So there were posters up, the school district was helping at the games, and just seeing that again, it kept coming back to me, like seeing it everywhere.
Yeah. So you said that you kind of felt drawn to it. Like, can you explain that feeling? I mean, that must be like, I've had things that are like, well, I'd like to do that, but this is something big. Like, I like to do that and it's going to change my life and somebody else, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, I literally could not stop thinking about him to the point where I finally said to my husband, listen, the first step is this blood test, because I had called and to see if our blood's compatible. And I didn't know off the top of my head what blood type I was. So I did that and I was compatible, like our blood types. And then it was like, do you want to pursue the rest of the testing? And I just said it to my husband, like so lightly, and I even threw it out like, I don't think there's anything that's going to come of it, but I really need to know because it's really bothering me. And he was like, well, all right. And I was like, what's the chance? And, but I didn't, feel that way. I felt like there was a big chance. I
Okay.
just played that because I didn't want him to panic.
What
I
month
guess.
do you think that was? So you said like that 17 into 18 is when you first found out.
Yeah.
What
So
month you said went and got the blood test and like, well, let me go forward to the next step.
yeah, I believe I got the blood test in the spring of 2019, towards the
Okay.
end of the school year. And I was waiting, once I heard that our blood was compatible, I was waiting to hear back from the transplant center. And I was really frustrated because I thought, wow, like, here you have someone willing to, go through with some things or talk about it. And I'm not hearing from you. But that
Mm,
is when I learned that you have to be the one that reaches out, because they can't be seen as manipulating you or bothering you to donate the kidney. So then I realized I had to be proactive, and got tested. I started the testing in the fall. I want to
mm.
say September of 2019.
Okay. So it had been a little over a year already. He hadn't found somebody else. So it looks like, I mean, as I'm thinking about it, looking back at that retrospectively over that year and a half, you probably were right with your intuition. I felt like I need to do this and I think it's going to work.
Yeah, I mean, I needed the answers. I just needed to know, even though I felt like I already knew. And
Hmm.
like I said, anyone I mentioned it to, some people were like my husband, like, okay, like made, not fun of it, but made light of it, or like, it's ridiculous. Like, who does that? But I was
Yeah.
like, I just think I can do it. I think it's like, I was reading about all of the things and the process, a little bit about the operation, but not too much because I didn't want to freak myself out.
Hmm.
And I'm someone who doesn't even like to get blood tests. So that was another part that was a little wild because I felt like I could just do it. I felt I had a strength that I didn't usually. I feel like I'm a big baby, so to
Yeah.
speak. But I realized how strong I was going through it because, blood, I mean, vials and vials of blood, you have to do 24-hour urine tests. You have to get
Hmm.
scans with um, the dye that they put in your blood, and that was like traumatic. They blew my veins out, doing that. It was it was a lot, yet I seemed to make light of it. I don't know how to explain it. Like, for
Yeah.
someone who didn't even like to get her blood drawn, I was just going through everything.
Aside from, I know you said that you had the blood, you had the scans. Do you have to schedule that on your own or do you go through like, is it the sharing network that you worked with or?
So I went through Lehigh Valley Hospital because that's who
Okay.
he was going through for the kidney transplant. So they have a number you call and they help you set everything up
Okay.
through
So
them.
you don't have to pay for any of that. That's something
No,
that's,
you get a card that you would use for insurance. So every
okay.
test goes through the card. Um, Off the top of my head, I can't think of what organization paid that, but yeah, so nothing was out of pocket. You
Okay.
had to make sure you showed it for everything because it's you have to be healthy. So if all else fails and you're not a match, you really know how healthy you are because they do every
They're looking
test you can
at other
imagine.
things besides your kidneys. They're looking at your heart, your lungs, your brain, everything.
Yep, absolutely everything. So that's the one thing they said, one thing if you're not a match, you're going to know if you're healthy or not. And they want you to be prepared for that because some people find out there's something really wrong with them just by going through the process because it's so intense.
So through all the medical, is there counseling available to you during this also?
You have to see a counselor. That was one thing that made my whole family laugh. You have to get like your mental health checked. And we made a joke of that as well. Like, they already thought I was crazy. So yeah, you have to go through, I would say it was like 45 minutes to an hour with a counselor before you can get approved.
Okay.
And it's during the testing process. They want to make sure you're healthy, you're
Mhm.
stable. You have to answer questions like, is anyone giving you money for
Uh,
this? Is anyone giving you gifts? Because you're not allowed to receive anything. So there was a whole day I spent getting different tests. I was able to line them up so I can take off one day of school, which was really nice because I was really concerned about that. I don't know if I actually went to our union president and I had
mhm.
asked him if there was any way, if this goes through, that I don't have to use my sick days. Like, could
Right.
we go to the board? Because what if I do end up getting sick down the line and using it up on this? And
Right. So for
he then
those of the audience that don't know, you're a teacher, so you work with the union. So just so that they know
yeah.
what where we're at with that.
Yes, thank you. Sorry. Yeah,
That's
so he brought it to the board and brought it to the superintendent and the assistant superintendent. And I told them that like the number one reason why people don't donate, I found, was because they don't have the money. They can't take time off work. We don't have any legislature in Pennsylvania that protects you or gives you money while you're off. So my assistant superintendent researched that and came up with a plan and put into effect a policy in our district that anyone who donates, any organ donor, can get up to 6 weeks paid leave, which was really huge. When I told the nurses and doctors at Lehigh Valley Hospital, they were like, oh my gosh, like I wish other organizations did this. I had people reach out to me from other districts and theirs didn't and would not come up with a policy. But I did get that into effect. Well, in essence, I asked the question. They did all the work. But that was before I went on leave. So I was able to I took off like 5 days, I think, at the end of the school year for the operation. That was covered. And then you have follow-up testing, and that was also covered, which was nice. Instead of
so you
taking
did it in summertime.
Yeah, we ended up, because of the shutdown, when I told Tom we were a match, he had a stent put in his heart, and he had to be on a blood thinner until, I believe, March of 2020. So he couldn't get the operation, even though we were a match in October, until March, because he had to be off the blood thinner for a certain period of time. But then everything happened. So it was kind of wild. We were hoping to do it like in April, and it was pushed off till May. So it worked out really well for school because the kids only had 5 days of not seeing me on Zoom, which was nice. And then I was off. So I didn't have to use a lot of the days that I was given.
Okay. I mean, you think the board, it was very generous of them, but my thinking is if someone's going to give an organ to somebody, we should give them the time off, right? Paid time off.
Yes, you would think. And I'm so grateful for it. And I hope one day maybe I could meet with other, unions or organizations to try to get a policy like ours, because I think it was really forward thinking, very progressive. And I was just very grateful. It was just an amazing amount of support that the district gave us.
Yeah. When when you're all worked up, you know that this is going to go through, that you're going to give your kidney. Did you have any fears? Was there anything that was like, should I do this? Or anything that limited you? Like, what was your biggest fear? There had to be, anybody going into any surgery has a little bit of fear, right?
Yeah. I had read that it was pretty much like an appendectomy, like when you have your appendix out. So that made me feel better with explaining it to family. I think I was more worried about my family. Okay. Most people were really supportive. My husband was supportive. My kids were little at the time. So that was, they didn't really know what was going on. They knew someone was sick. I was going to help someone. I had gotten books explaining what a kidney donor is and things like that to try to explain it to them. But I think my fear was when I told people and how they reacted. I was a little afraid, and I was a little I was very private about it. It was really personal, very emotional. So at first I didn't even know if I was going to bring it anywhere. But when the district made the policy and I had the opportunity, the newspaper reached out, and Tom and I then ended up doing an interview, a video interview, and we ended up doing an article in the newspaper, because I do know that the only way people get these organs is through, Facebook and through newspaper articles, and to be educated, because I never thought I always wanted to be an organ donor. I felt strongly about that when I had to check the box, on my license, but I never really thought about it before until this came up, that I could actually do it.
Yeah.
I want to take a moment to thank our sponsor, Calm Creations. If you like relaxing by the warm glow of a candle with the scent that brings back memories, I've got the perfect candle company for you. Calm Creations, based in New Jersey, makes high-quality, beautifully scented candles, and 10% of their profits go to benefit nonprofit organizations. Check out their amazing selection at calmcreations.com. And thank you for being a sponsor of Extraordinary People in an Ordinary World.
Well, it's such a big decision. It's a big surgery, having given your kidney. It's a little bit bigger than an appendectomy, but I used to be a dialysis nurse, so I know a little bit about the whole process. It was many years ago, but I still know that it is a big surgery. How long? Well, you said 6 weeks. That was your recovery?
That was the time that they would give me, like through the district. That's what they came up with, I think, from researching. But I would say I definitely took a couple of weeks to recover, but I did know that all the support groups I was a part of, they brought up like walking, like make sure they get you out of bed right away. So I woke up like, when am I getting up? When can I walk? Because really you get a lot of the gas in your chest from the operation and if you don't get it moving, like that seemed to be like the biggest complaint from a lot of people. So I was really fearing that. Like when you talk about the fear, I honestly didn't lose sleep over it until it was go time. Like that morning, that's when I really thought, oh my gosh, like, what am I doing? And I saw him and he just looked so sick. We got to see each other before. And my husband thankfully was able to be with me. Like that was something they last minute decided because of everything being a mess and COVID. That's when it really set in. I said to the nurse, like, if you can give me any medication, like for my nerves. And that was interesting too, because they couldn't give me anything until they had me sign the paperwork, the finalized paperwork, because you can't be under any influence, right? When you say that you're going to give. So it seemed like eons to me waiting to get some like medication to just calm my nerves. But the actual recovery, I think I had a rough week, but only like literally when I would have to get up, because it's your abdomen and all the muscles to do that. I didn't realize the pain that would be like, because you just don't know until you do it. So that was bad. But I just remember getting up and walking, and I walked miles in the hospital and I had none of the gas issues. And I just kept walking. I think I broke records there. Like when the doctor found out how many, like they have laps and it's marked so many laps a mile. When she found out, like, I think I did maybe 3 miles, like the first 28 hours or something. And she was like, oh my gosh, like, I think you need to, like, you broke records. I think you need to slow down. But I just wanted to keep moving because I knew that was how I was going to heal the fastest, because that's what I heard. So I did everything they told me to do. So I would say within a couple of weeks, I was feeling pretty good.
Okay.
My mental health was a little, I mean, we were going through COVID and his experience was a lot more difficult than mine, which made my mental health.
I need to ask you, so you go in to give your kidney, and when they take out your kidney, from that point on till he gets a kidney, what is that time frame?
You know what? I'm not sure, but I would like to say it's super fast. I kind of feel like we were both going, I was under first, obviously, and then I don't think there's a lot of time. I think like we're both getting operated on the same time. I know that he came out of it after me because I remember waking up and the anesthesia made me so emotional. I remember waking up crying and I wanted to know how he was. And like I was, calling out to all the nurses and a little irrational because I think it was just the whole thing, the emotions, the medication. And I know that he was still recovering after me.
Yeah. So how did I mean, that is a fear too when you're going into this, is this kidney going to work? And you talked a little bit to that. How did it work for him?
Yeah, it was really difficult. He was really sick by the time we could do the donation. The dialysis was really hard on him. He was already on it for 3 years. He started in 2017. So it did a lot of damage. And when they gave him my kidney, he had some kind of heart issue, I believe, when he was getting the operation, which I think caused my kidney not to wake up right away. I think that the trauma, so it was a very traumatic experience for my poor kidney. As I think of like, so sorry I ripped you out of your happy home, That was when you do, like, when we were saying fears before, I was thinking of physical fears, but I did fear, like, they ask you, how will you be if it doesn't work? Like, it doesn't always work. And I was like, I will be devastated, like, I didn't know what else to say, even though I was trying to pass this mental health exam and I didn't want to like seem, too emotionally unstable. But I said, I'm being honest, like, I would be devastated if I went through all that for nothing, so to speak. Right. So he was in the hospital for a long time. I couldn't see him, which, most people get to go and see each other right away. And we had COVID. He had the kidney wasn't waking up. He had to go back on dialysis. And it took about a month for it to wake up. So I just remember feeling so relieved because I thought we were one of the people that it just wasn't going to work for.
Yeah. So that waking up is meaning that the kidneys start to work, function, and somebody starts to pee again. Sometimes when people do the transplants, right when they put that kidney in, they start making urine immediately. But in other people, it does, like you said, kind of go to sleep, and then it takes a little bit for them to wake up. Before we are meeting today, we had talked a little bit. Would you be able to tell the audience about how you let him know that he had a kidney waiting for him?
Sure. I had found out that we were a match. I was at a technology meeting at school. I was with a friend who did know I went through the testing, and I got the phone call in the middle of the meeting. So I stepped out and I was just like so excited, and it was right before my birthday. So I had asked my dad, who was driving bus with him, if he could ask Tom to wait after they had gotten back to the bus terminal. And I was going to wait there for him and tell him on my birthday that, in fact, it was kind of his birthday because we were a match. And he was just speechless. Like, he was taken back. Like, he thought that there was something wrong with my dad. Obviously, my dad's older. And he was worried for my dad. Said he couldn't imagine what my dad had to tell him. Just was totally caught off guard, and, we hugged, and it was emotional. Like, for me, like, I have 2 kids, and I kept thinking this is almost like giving another life, that's all it felt. I felt like it was almost like a birth, like that I gave somebody something that great.
Yeah.
So it was fun. It was a fun my best birthday.
Oh, how old were you?
Well, that's a good question. 6:44.
Okay.
Ago, yeah.
Wow. And there is a cutoff when you cannot give organs as well. I know that. So, you're young, in your 40s is young.
Yes, compared to that, yes.
So when you first told me that story, it made me feel emotional. And you telling this again and hearing it again makes me emotional also, because I just can't even fathom how it must feel to be able to give that gift. And not many people can do that. I mean, sure, they can do it for their family, somebody they know, but to give it to somebody that you really did not know at all, it's just an amazing thing.
When I think about it from the outside, I'm like, yeah, that does seem extraordinary, but it just seemed like it was meant to be. It was meant to happen this way. And to me, it feels like not that big of a deal, even though I know that it was a big deal. I know it was a big deal to him, and it was life-changing, really, for me. It was such a good experience, and I really hope my kids just learn how to be good people. When you help people, help them.
The gifts you gave your children, seeing their mom do something so brave, that's amazing.
Yeah. I hope so. Like, I think they also take it for granted. They think like it's just, that's what she did. I came home and I was walking miles outside hoping to heal. And, I think that we, I made it very light for them because I didn't want them to be afraid, either. So yeah, it just seems like if I had another one, I would do it in a second. I really would.
As grown adults, they're going to know what that took. They're going to realize that this was not just your everyday, giving a pint of blood. I mean, I love people that are able to do that, but this is bigger than that even. So I applaud you for sure. And I'm sure your kids and your family do as well. So let me ask you, do you still keep in touch with him?
We do. We get together every year on our anniversary, our kidneyversary. So over the summer, he takes me out to dinner, sometimes with his family, his kids, or, his father-in-law, and always with his wife. Sometimes with my kids, we do different things. This past year, we went to an Iron Pigs game for our celebration, which was so fun. He sends me gifts every Christmas. Sometimes we go to dinner on Christmas. It was just his birthday. So we were talking. I'm a texter. He's a talker. So, I text him and then he usually calls me. So I was so bummed I missed his birthday. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm late for your birthday. Usually I see it come up on Facebook or something, and I just mustn't have been on that day. I was like, love you. And he tells me he loves me too. I love him. Like, I'm so grateful that he was the great guy that everyone said, because there are a lot of people that donate kidneys and it goes to someone they don't know. And I don't think I could do that. Like, I didn't know him. And then we built a relationship, and I'm glad for that. I don't think I could have just randomly given it to someone, not knew how it went, not knowing if they'd take care of it, because there's lots of reasons why you'd be in kidney failure.
Yeah.
I don't know how those people do it, but I'm glad it turned out that he was a wonderful guy, because I was already ready to give it to him, for this strong feeling. So it was the icing on the cake that he is just the sweetest thing. He really is.
Yeah, I'm sure he feels, like I don't even know how much gratitude he must have for you. Like he probably cannot even explain it.
Yeah, I think like I'd like to take him to dinner one day, but I don't know if that'll ever happen because he always wants to treat me all the time, which nice. Yeah, he definitely I know he's appreciative and his family is, and he has 2 sons, and one son in particular is very open and just wrote me the sweetest things. So that was really
Wow.
It was nice to appreciate it,
Yeah, that's nice. Just, I mean, I don't know if you know what the current statistics are, but currently there's 90 to 95,000 people in the United States waiting for a kidney. So it is
Unbelievable.
very big. It's a very big thing that you've done. I don't even know how to say thank you for that, but for having that big heart that you have, it's amazing.
It was really a calling. I'm telling, like I said, I really can't. I never would have been strong enough if it wasn't meant to be. Just
Right.
was.
Just was meant to be, and your family was supportive of it also,
Yeah.
which is
In
good.
the end, everybody got on board.
Was anybody that told you no, don't do it?
Definitely, I think it was more like, what if you need a kidney one day? And I had to explain that I get to the top of the list, if that would ever happen. We don't have anyone in the family with any that would be prone to kidney failure or any kind of kidney issues. But they thought more like an accident or something like that. And they also felt, some of them, that like they would, it's one thing to give to family, but why would you just give it to someone? Like, what if someone in the family needs it then?
Yes.
And I was like, then somebody else in the family can do it. Like, I could help them through it, and some were just nervous, didn't want anything to happen to me, the normal. But overall, it was positive. For the most part, there were a couple that made it hard when you go through something so big, and that, like, I had a nephew that was a little upset about it. It was hard because we're really close, and he just didn't see what I saw. So it was really hard for him. My brother-in-law thought I shouldn't, go to the newspaper because it was maybe seen, I think the word was used, boastful. And I tried to explain to him that that's the only way that people get help. So even though it was hard to do, I felt like I had to do it. And it's not, I'm still the same person. I do great things, like nice things. And sometimes, I'm just a normal person. I'm not anything special, so it's just.
Definitely think you're special. I know that you want to advocate for people to, be aware of this and look for this. What could somebody do, like, who knows nothing about any kind of transplant that they could give? Some people give bone marrow, kidneys. What would you tell them, or how would they go about even finding things out?
Well, if they wanted to be a donor, they could reach out to the local centers, any of the hospitals and organizations that have kidney donation programs. So if they wanted to be like an altruistic, the one that I don't think I could ever have done in my life, just, donate to donate, they could do that. But my biggest advice to people is if they feel like a tug at their heart when they see something, usually you see it on social media or you hear about it on the news. If you feel that feeling, go with your gut. That's my advice to people. There's always people that are in need, and they can definitely find them if they just want to give. But I think it kind of happens, when you see something, to go with your gut. And there's not, like, you don't have to, you can go through all the testing and that person doesn't even know. Like, it's all anonymous. No one can tell that person that you're being tested. So you won't disappoint anyone. I always tell people, like, you could figure everything out and then decide, Yeah,
I think that part's really interesting. I like that it works that way.
Yeah, so you don't have the pressure of letting someone down. Yeah.
So in closing, if you could put it into words, what it feels like to be able to give the gift of life, to donate an organ, how would you describe that feeling?
I would say it was one of the best feelings I've had. I compare it to having my children. Really filled my heart with joy. It's just one of the best highs. I really, you do feel like something they even talk to you about, how after you donate, what then? Because you're so preoccupied with the testing and, making someone healthy again and all the things. And then you go back to your life, and you're, in pain and you're healing. And how to deal with that kind of stuff. But it really is like there's a high to it that gets you through all that, and a joy that really I've never really felt besides having my kids.
Yeah, I think that's a good analogy about having your kids, and that is giving life, but you also gave life by giving your kidney.
Yeah, that's the only way I can explain it, I guess.
Well,
the best feeling.
The best feeling. Yeah, I can imagine. And not many people are going to get that feeling because not many people do what you did. So, well, I want to thank you for being here. And in closing today, I just want to remind everybody that we heard a story of extraordinary courage, and we see what that really looks like. We listened to one person who was able to listen to that persistent tug on her heart and do what she felt she needed to do. Her journey wasn't impulsive. The time frame was a little bit long, if you say 2017 to 2020, but it was thoughtful, it was courageous, and it was completely selfless. It involved family conversations where you had to talk to your husband, father, and others, obviously. Many medical evaluations, you had a lot of vulnerability there, a lot of trust. And in the end, it became something even bigger than a transplant. It became a testament to compassion without any condition. In today's world that often feels divided, the story reminds us that goodness is still around us, and that sometimes the most powerful acts of love happen between strangers. And when we feel called to do something meaningful, we should act on those feelings, because one meaningful decision can change the course of someone else's life. And I thank you for that. And I thank you for being one of the extraordinary people in this world.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me and allowing me to share my story. Maybe it'll get someone else something they need.
I hope so. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me on Extraordinary People in an Ordinary World. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Please share with a friend. If you know an extraordinary person, I would love to hear from you so that I can feature them on the show. Please email me at bethextraordinarypeople@gmail.com. Or you can message me on Instagram at extraordinary_people_podcast. I look forward to hearing from you. And in the words of Saint Mother Teresa, not all of us can do great things, but we can all do small things with great love. I look forward to our next extraordinary person, the first Friday of next month. See you then.